Well, I know that some of you may remember a friend of mine, another storyteller. Her name was Martha Holloway, and I know that she told stories for your organization a couple of times. She died a couple of years ago, but I have very fond memories of Martha and the stories that she told. Martha grew up in Texas, and she heard stories from her mother. And they weren't your usual bedtime stories. No, these were stories that went along with work, and that was the incentive for the stories. Martha and her family were very poor, and so they all picked cotton. And she and her mother would start on either side of a row of cotton. And the deal was that if she could keep up with her mother picking the cotton, her mother would tell stories. And as long as Martha could keep up, she could hear the stories. So quite an incentive. But this is one of the stories that Martha heard then. And in thinking about it, I think about telling it in kind of the way that she did. This is a story that happened a powerful long time ago. It was in the early days, back in the early days, when the only folks on earth were Adam and his wife, Miss Eve. And these were the days when the Lord, he walked the earth like a natural man. Well, Adam and Eve, they had it real good. They had 40 acres of good bottom land and a couple of mules and a couple of Studebakers. Didn't have to share with anybody. And they had animals, all the animals they could want. They got to name them. They were real good at that. They'd sit out on the porch of an evening, and Adam would say something like, "See that bee over there making a beeline?" Seemed real logical. They named a frog, of course. It makes perfect sense. What else would you name a frog besides a frog? As I said, they were real good at this. Well, one day, Adam was just walking down the road with a fishing pole over his shoulder when he happened upon the Lord, who was just walking down the road too. And the Lord gave Adam a howdy, and Adam gave the Lord a howdy. And the Lord said, "Well, how is it with you and Miss Eve, Adam?" And Adam said, "Well, I tell you, it's going along real well, and I have to thank you for that. You give us a real nice garden and a fine house, and them mules and them Studebakers, they're just working out fine. And Miss Eve, I must say, is just a real good woman. And she do all the cooking and all the washing and all the ironing and all like that. And Miss Eve and I, we get along real well. She likes to talk, and most times I like to listen." And the Lord say, "Well, then it's going along fine. You got any requests? Anything that I need to do for you, Adam?" And Adam say, "Well, now that you say that, Lord, there is just one little thing that I would like to request." He said, "Well, tell me about it, Adam, and I'll see what I can do for you." And Adam said, "Well, now, Lord, you know that the fishing around here is real good, and I have to say that I have grown to like fishing just about as much as anything in all this world. But as you know, man to God anyway, the fishing is the sort of thing that a man just kind of has to do by himself. It doesn't lend itself to no kind of conversation. And so I go out by myself to go fishing, but of course I have to leave Miss Eve all alone. And she say that she gets powerful lonesome without someone to talk to." And the Lord, he say, "Get to your point, Adam." And Adam say, "Well, what I would like is if you could make us some folks." And the Lord, he say, "Folks? What do you mean folks, Adam?" And Adam say, "Well, you know, just neighbors or friends or something, someone for Miss Eve to talk to, because she say that she gets so lonely when I go out fishing that she's just about to say that I can't go fishing no more." The Lord say, "I see what you mean, Adam, and when would you like those folks?" And he say, "Well, any time, but as soon as possible." And so the Lord, he take out his almanac, the one with the phases of the moon, to see if he's got something to do that day. It looks like the whole day is free. So he say, "Well, now, Adam, you just come on with me down to the creek, and I'll make you some folks. You can help." And Adam say, well, that sounded good to him. So he followed the Lord down to the creek. And the Lord get up a big pile of clay. And Adam, he looked for some saplings to use for some structure. And the Lord, he starts shaping some folks. And depending on where he got the clay, far away from the stream or in the stream or on the other side of the stream, that's the kind of folks he would make. And some of them was pale, and some of them was black, and some of them was brown, and well, all kinds of shades, whatever kind of clay there was. And some of them was tall, and some of them was short, and some of them was skinny, some of them was stout, but all of them were pretty fine-looking folks. And when the Lord got them all already, he just set them up beside the fence rail, made a fine-looking group of folks. And Adam, he say, well, that's fine, Lord. Are you done with them? And the Lord say, well, almost, Adam, but not quite. You see, they each got a little soft spot on the heads. He said, that's where I puts in the brains. But you got to wait for them to dry just a little bit. So I tell you what, we'll let them dry overnight, and then tomorrow morning you meet me back here, and I'll put in the brains, and you'll have those folks that you can take back to Miss Eve. And Adam say, well, that do sound good. I'll be here first thing. Well, next morning, there was Adam going down to the creek, and there was the Lord. But the folks, they was missing completely. And Adam say, where the folks, Lord? And the Lord say, well, Adam, I was hoping you'd know. Looks like to me that in the night, those folks, they just walk off. Adam said, but they don't have any brains. And the Lord said, well, I know. And Adam said, well, can you get them back? And the Lord said, well, I don't see how. They're probably far away now. Looks like I'll just have to start over and make some more. And so he did. He made sure he put the brains in them right away before they could walk off. But those walk-off folks, why, they've been wandering the earth and multiplying and replenishing like you know folks will. And I don't know if you know any of them folks, but if you've been in a line at the grocery store, or if you've been on the freeway, or if you've been in any kind of a committee of any sort, you might have encountered a few of those folks. Seems like they're disproportionately represented among politicians. But the time that you're thinking to yourself, oh my, doesn't that person have any brains at all? You might just say to yourself, maybe not. Maybe that's one of them walk-off folks. That's the story of that.